Welcome to Justice Now. This is part 2 of Tips for Black Workers, and it's done in real time as I'm actually, the reflection is done in real time. The actual events I'm bringing out to report in terms of patterns. So the first thing that I notice is and this is a pattern in the beginning of most of the places I've worked at, is you're going to be asked a lot of questions, a lot of personal questions. And I feel that it's a way of bringing about, it's a way of finding out, what is nearest and dearest to you. Finding out about your personal information, and this is where you really need to be mindful as to what type of information you share. Sure, people will come across as very friendly, but keep in mind that any personal information that you share will be used against you, right? And I've always made it a practice of mine not to share much personal information because it forces those who turn against you to have to work harder. And it forces them to have to lie about you. And whenever they lie, they're going to need to, when confronted, they're going to need to find the proof. Make sure that when you are preparing phrases of how to respond, phrase it in a way that you're not really saying anything about yourself. What I would also recommend is if you're allowed to have your phone, do not put your family members or your children on your phone screen. Because whenever that screen comes up with a message, it will light up and show the pictures, which will invite more questions about you that will be used as ammunition against you. And I guarantee you it has been without fail that it will be used against you. So this is one of the protective strategies. Another thing to note is that in the training session, note the dynamics in the training session. This is usually where you will find that the racism begins. I mean, it's always been there, but this you'll notice through the dynamics of what's going on. So, for instance, I'm in training and I'm the only non-white person there. And I'm noticing that the training is more directed to the white persons that are in the group. And this happened at my other job as well. You need to be very mindful as to how that happens. Regardless if the person has been trained in that particular subject before, the purpose of the training session is to ensure that everyone is on the same page as to how a particular company or organization runs their program. So at no time should anyone be left ostracized. I know that when I used to train groups, then the way that I would do it is everybody has come in as if they've never known the material and go through it with everyone. However, what I see in the training is that often training is given more to whites and not much information is given to non-whites. So, in order to counter that, what you can do is make sure you have a list of questions that you feel needs answered, and you ask them. And then the next thing I'm going to suggest that you do is that depending on what you're being trained on, I'm going to suggest that you research or follow up with someone who is similar, who's actually in the field outside of the company, of course, to inquire if you've gotten the information correctly. Because oftentimes there's a lot of information that you're not provided. There's an ongoing saying that non-whites are told what to do, not trained. And that's pretty much what happens. So there's going to be a lot of ostracism, right? They're going to redirect a lot of their attention to the white workers in the training group. And when you will not be provided that information, so you make sure that you ask your questions that you need to ask, and you make sure that you have a work journal from the beginning outlining the dynamics as well, so that you're aware, and it indicates that you ask these questions to find out the information, so that when it comes to performance review, because it's all about preparation, right? So when it comes to a performance review, you can go back and reflect and say, well, I did ask these questions. This is what I was told. And if I'm now being told different, that this is not what I'm supposed to do, then why was I told to do XYZ during the training? And you have something to refer to, right? So you want to make those notes for yourself. Because no one else is going to make those notes for you. And people have a way, especially when they're saying it verbally, they have a way of forgetting what they've told you. Or they have a way of rebranding what they've told you, right? So an example would be, if you need to hand in paperwork within 24 hours, and then you're doing what you need to do, but then comes performance appraisal time, and you're being asked, well, you're handing in paperwork 24 hours, but you're actually supposed to be handing it in 12 hours, within 12 hours time. Of course you're going to be, well, I was told initially there'll be 24 hours. No one's told me 12 hours. And because you don't have anything to refer to say, well, this is what I've been told, there's nothing that can be proven. Make sure you document what you've been told. And then I would also urge you to make sure that you find another person outside of the organization that knows the program that you're being trained, to find out if you've actually been taught what you need to be taught. I know for my situation, I've been trained in this particular program before, so I can make that comparison as to whether or not it was substandard training or if it was adequate training. So I can make that comparison, but the person new coming in cannot make that comparison. So make sure that you do some research about that program, even if it means calling up another company that actually offers the program to confirm, okay, I'm being trained in this program. Are these the principles that I'm learning? Is there anything I'm missing? And also bring it up at the training. A great question, is there anything else I'm missing in this training? And then make sure you note it in your work journal. That way, when time comes and they're saying, oh, well, you should have known this. I did ask the question, is there anything else that I'm missing in the training? And this is what I was told on this date at this time. Right? You have something to refer to. The other thing that you're going to find is that there's going to be a lot of tackiness. I know that during the training yesterday, there was a lot of tackiness. There were a lot of people that were pretending to be African American black men, um, with the stereotypes, with the lingo of yo man, yo 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 man, and it's like, black people don't speak like that all the time of yo man, yo yo. Like this is like all media stereotypes, but it was just really interesting because the type of training that I was in was more of a safe management type of training. And even when doing the containments, it was like, you have people that were younger than me that were saying, "Oh, you're gonna go down, fool." What is this nonsense, right? Majority of the people that are being supported are not black, and even if they were, still there's no reason for that type of communication. And a lot of the people that were doing that were younger than me. I was born in the 70s. So by the time I had my childhood in the 80s, that whole jive talk, all that was gone. So I found it really interesting that as I'm working with someone younger than me, the way that they associate black people is with jive talk and yo yo yo, and it's like I know that the only way they would know that such a thing is based on what their parents have told them, right? So be and they're like trying to horse around. Make sure that you're not horsing around. Make sure that you're the one that is, sticking to what needs to be done, because at the end of the day, these types of trainings can reduce injury. These types of training can ensure that you're doing what you need to do as part of your role and responsibilities. Make sure that you are the person that is very serious about what they do. Let's see. I'm going to put up a part 3 a little bit later on, but those are the takeaways. Have the work journal ready as recap, and be very aware of the type of dynamics that are going on during the training session. That's where I've noticed that you tend to get a lot of the racism, that they become more apparent. And make sure you have your list of questions and make your own research as to whether or not you're getting trained the way that you're supposed to. And, write it down in your work journal so you have something to refer to. Okay, and stay tuned for part 3, tips for black workers.